Yeah, so I was not a big Wizard of Oz fan. I've always thought that movie was kind of terrible. And so
Oh my
like
goodness. Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Weekly Fix. I'm Zane. Joined with me, as always, is my good friend Jacob. We have a wonderful November rundown episode for you guys. Last week, we postponed our Comic Corner to this week because we had our Venom review, and I hope you guys like that. We did get some good feedback on that was an enjoyable time. So we love the feedback. Thank you guys for talking to us about that. But on top of our November rundown, we also have Marvel's Slate announcement that we're going to be talking about. And then shortly, we'll do our Penguin Episode 7 review. So we have a lot of content to get to today. But before we jump into it, we always have to check how our host is doing. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I think everybody right now is kind of been dealing with some like little sicknesses. If I sound a little bit congested, that's why. I know you guys, your house was just strucken with some illnesses this past week. So I think we're in that time of the year, which is never any fun. But luckily, the weather has still been nice and still had an awesome week. So I can't complain too much.
Yeah, it's definitely been a pretty sick heavy household here in the Worley fam, but we're making it. We're doing fine. Praise the Lord that Charlie and Ezra are both back on the mend. That me and Chelsea did not get hit with it hard yet. I've had a little bit of stuffiness. I'm probably a little bit more nasally than normal today. But that's all right. We're here for it. I hate that you're not feeling up to par. But you guys had a good weekend, right?
Oh yeah, man. I always had a great weekend. I don't think I've ever really had a bad weekend in quite some time now. It's always fun to be able to get out. Obviously I like going to the comic shops on Saturday. That's like kind of become like my Saturday thing. I love heading over there and picking up some comics. This past week it was actually really fun because I got to pick up quite a few because I hadn't been in the last couple weeks. So I had quite a big pull list, which is always super exciting. Been getting into some new stuff. I think I discussed it on the last episode. I'm getting into Void Rivals, some Transformers, some of the Ghost Machine comics and stuff like that. So it's been really fun just continuing to do those things. And just every time I go to the comic shop, it gets me more excited to talk about our comic corner, which obviously we're going to be talking about War of the Realms later. But overall, just a fantastic week. It was just awesome. Always a good weekend. I can't ever complain.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now I know you continuing those runs that you've been reading. Did you pick up anything outside of those runs this weekend?
Well, so I got the next issue of the Ninja Turtles. So I got issue number 3. I haven't got a chance to get into that, but I am super excited to dive into that. And then Absolute Wonder Woman. I finally was able to pick up my copy of that, which that has me super excited. If you guys are comic readers and you've been wanting something new in the DC universe, the Absolute series that they have coming out are absolutely phenomenal. Again, I haven't had a chance to read Wonder Woman, but Absolute Batman has been off to an amazing start, so I'm super excited for that next issue. But this month is actually the Absolute Superman month. And that one might
Okay.
be the one I'm most excited about just because it's Absolute Superman. So it's going to be a whole new story, kind of like we got with Absolute Batman and Wonder Woman, changing up the pace of those characters a little bit, which will be super exciting. So yeah, those are super, super interesting to me. And I think if you guys are DC fans out there, I definitely think they should have your attention as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I am interested in those. I know that the you've been raving about the Batman, and pretty much everyone has. So I'm kind of interested to see what everyone is looking like. Maybe if I get to pick those up and read them once they get put into like a small collection book instead of coming out weekly. But yeah, super interesting. So good weekends all around. That's great. Well, are you ready to hop into our November rundown?
Yeah, I'm excited. I was looking through some of the movies that you have on here, and I'm super pumped about a couple of them, which is a little bit out of the ordinary for me. I feel like a lot of the time I'm just like, this one's kind of meh, but there's a couple on here that I think have some really great potential, and I'm super excited to talk about.
Now, yeah, and I do want to make a disclaimer. I did shorten the list a little bit this month, just because I feel like we talked in some of our previous months. We maybe talked about some that neither one of us had any interest in. So I did take out a few this month that really are completely irrelevant to us. So only we'll be talking about movies that I feel like are main movies that are coming out and or we are interested in. So The first one on the list is a kind of a unique one, but it's the best Christmas pageant ever. Now, this is a movie that is directed by Dallas Jenkins. He is the creator and producer of The Chosen, and it is about a the best Christmas pageant ever put on. Apparently, some. Have you heard about this movie at all?
I have heard about it. I haven't seen the trailer, but
Okay.
I kind of know like a little bit about it.
Yeah, some rascals essentially get cast in the Christmas pageant at a church, and they join the true Christmas spirit and allow them to participate. Now, Jacob, are you excited for this movie?
I am. I'm actually excited for this one in particular because I think it's going to be a really fun time. Me and my wife are actually going to be attempting for the first time in our marriage to watch a Christmas movie every day of December. And I know this one comes out November the 8th.
Whoa!
Yeah, so all 25 days we're going to watch one movie every night. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Oh, that's
We'll report back to
exciting.
that. But now I know this one comes out this month, but I'm hoping this is a movie that I don't know if this one's out in theaters or not. Is it a theater movie or is it
It is a
streaming?
theater movie. Yep, theater
So
movie.
hopefully this one makes it to December. Hopefully it has a long enough run. I hope it. I mean, that would make sense if it does, because I would love for this to be one of those movies that we actually get to go to the theaters and watch. I think that'd be super fun. But I don't know that it'll make it that long. I don't really have high expectations for this movie, but it is one I'm excited for.
Yeah, I have fairly decent expectations for this film. I am excited for it too. This is a win for me. Um, I'm a big fan of The Chosen. I know it's not perfect, but I thoroughly enjoy it. So Dallas Jenkins is attached to it. It looks like it's a fun, good, wholesome movie, which is just what you need at Christmas. So this one looks like a good one for me.
Yeah, I
So
gotta second that. I think this is a win for me also.
awesome! Wow, starting off strong for November. The second one is one that I think that you will. If I was going to choose a Christmas movie that was a win, this one looks like one for you, and that's Red One, starring Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons, and Lucy Liu. Um, do you know about Red One?
Oh, absolutely.
And am I correct on this?
Oh yeah, this is a big win for me. This probably is my most excited movie for the month. I'm
Oh
really
my
pumped for this one.
goodness!
I just think it's gonna be a really, really fun time. I know all the trailers that I've seen for this movie. It just looks like it's gonna be fun. So again, this is another one of those ones I'm super excited for. And I do believe this one is a streaming movie, correct? Is it gonna be an Amazon streaming movie?
I actually don't know. I'm pretty sure this is in IMAX. That
Oh,
this, yeah,
if it's
only
in the
in
movie theaters.
theaters. Yeah, only
Oh,
in
cool, cool.
theaters, November
Because I saw
15th.
something that said Prime Video, so maybe I don't know what that was. Maybe referring to where it
And
will
for
be
those of
streaming.
you who don't know, Red One is the story of a Red One is the code name for Santa Claus, and he gets kidnapped. Then it is up to Dwayne Johnson, the head of security, and a bounty hunter, Chris Evans, to track him down and save Christmas. So it is definitely going to be at least a little bit of dumb fun.
Oh yeah, this is my type of movie. I'm super pumped for this one. Again, if this is a movie that makes it till December in the theaters, it'll be one that I'm waiting to go see then. I do expect this one to do a little bit better than the best Christmas pageant ever. Um,
Just
just because
star
it does
power
have,
alone.
yeah, it does have the star power, so I think that alone is the reason why I expect it to do better. And usually Dwayne the Rock Johnson movies do kind of sit in the theaters for a little longer than most other movies, so I do expect this one to make it to December, and this is absolutely one that I will be going to see.
Yeah. Have you watched Red Notice?
I have not.
Yeah, this to me seems like a Christmas Red Notice, which is Dwayne the Rock Johnson, um, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. Um, so it seems like they're kind of pulling very similar strings here. But regardless, yeah, it does seem like a fun time. This is not a win for me. This is not a boo. I'm not like not loving it, but I have low expectations for this film. Um, so not a bad one, but it's not a win by any stretch.
And that's so disappointing because this is a big win for me. I just love stuff like this. I think this one will be really dumb, but I think it'll get me some of those like dumb laughing moments that I'm super excited for. And I just love Christmas; it's my favorite time of the year. So I think having a movie like this is going to be super exciting. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I kind of have I have some potential with this movie that I could see this becoming like a staple in my household around Christmas time. So hopefully it lives up to those expectations. But nonetheless, I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah, I get that. Like I get that it could be. It just man, I don't know. I feel like Dwayne Johnson has been phoning it in for the last 5 years at least. Um, and just some of the trailer to me has me very skeptical. Um, the quality of film this this one's gonna be.
Well, don't expect
Uh,
quality, just expect fun.
oh
It'll
well, I
make it a lot
mean,
better. Make it
I
a lot
like
better for you.
quality fun. Quality fun. All right, next on the list is probably my most excited. Spoiler alert, but Gladiator 2 is coming out in November. Now, how are you feeling about Gladiator 2?
So I'm excited for this one, but it's not like a big one for me. I honestly, people are gonna hate me for this. I'm not the biggest fan of the first movie. Like I think it's good and all, but I do think it's very overrated personally. I think it's just like a if I had to rate it on like a 1 through 10, like the first Gladiator is like a good solid 8 for me. Which again, that's still a really great score. But I know so many people put it in like their greatest movie of all time list, and it's just not that for me. So I still think this is gonna be a fun one. I think it's got a really good cast as well. The trailers do look interesting, and a lot of all the little publicity stuff that they've been doing is really cool. I don't know if you saw the popcorn bucket that they're doing for this movie, but it has a QR code on. You scan it on your phone, it pulls up like a little gladiator arena, and two like computer gladiators fight it out. So I think stuff like that's really cool.
Hey, that's pretty
And I think
cool.
it is a very cool little thing they're doing with the popcorn bucket. But overall, I don't think this is a bad movie. It's not like a win, but I'm kind of like you are in Red One for this one. It's kind of just like a. I'm glad we're getting it, and I think it has great potential, but it's just not the one I'm most excited for this month.
Yeah, I was really worried you were going to rank Gladiator like 7 or lower, and we were going to have to fight. This is not a this is not my favorite movie of all time, but I think it is very well deserving of its 35th spot in greatest movie of all time list. Um, I have it as a 9, and I think it's it's at least a mid-tier 9. So I love Gladiator. I think it's amazing. I don't think it needed a sequel, but I'm glad it's getting one, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. One of the things that has me most excited about this film is Denzel Washington's praise of Paul Mescal. So I am very excited to see his performance in this thing, and if I can convince someone to go with me, I'll probably be catching this one in the theater. I don't know anyone else who's really excited about it. So it may be a little bit of a challenge to get somebody to shell out to go see Gladiator 2, but very excited nonetheless for Gladiator 2. I think it's going to be good. I do not think it's going to live up to the first one, but it's got the star power. I'm very excited for Denzel. Pedro Pascal is very good. We get Joseph Quinn on screen, so just I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I agree. I think my problem with this one is I just don't feel like the first one needed a sequel, just like you said. So that's kind of where I'm most reserved for this movie. And for some reason in my head, like I just feel like it picked a bad year to come out when we had Dune 2 come out. Like I feel like if this was a movie that kind of was like the big blockbuster of the year, because it does have the name and stuff like that. But just like I feel like that's what they're kind of pushing for with this movie. So that's kind of why my expectations are so low for it. Because I just feel like the way they've marketed it, the way things have been talked about, people are saying, "Oh, like it's potentially the best movie of the year," and I just don't see that when we've had Dune 2 come out. So I think that's kind of why I'm most reserved for it, is because in my head, for some reason, I keep comparing it to that, and I just know it's not going to be that. So I think that's probably like it's a me problem, but that's kind of why I've been most reserved for this one.
And that's understandable. I get all of those critiques, and I don't even think they're wrong. I don't know if it's trying to fight against Dune, but I don't think anything's taken that for me. But
No.
I'd be surprised. Who knows? I just hope they don't rely too heavily on CGI. That's my only worry. Um, that there could be some potential problems with that. But next on the list is Wicked. Now, Jacob, big Wicked fan, right?
No. This is probably. Let me look back. I have to look back at the list. But off the top of my head, this one it might be my least excited movie that we're going to talk about for the month. I'm just not really. I never was a big because this is the Wizard of Oz type movie, correct?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
it's the Wicked Witch of the West, I believe, her
yeah.
story.
Yeah, so I was not a big Wizard of Oz fan. I've always thought that movie was kind of terrible. And so
Oh
like
my goodness.
and so like having a movie kind of like based in that same world and stuff, I think it's gonna look really good. I think it's gonna be a very visually stunning movie. I think it's gonna have some fun parts to it. The cast doesn't really excite me much at all. And again, if I'm not a big Wizard of Oz fan, I don't see myself getting behind this one. But I could be wrong. But this is definitely one I won't go seeing. So this is definitely a boo for me.
Yeah, no, I this is a boo for me as well, but for different reasons. I don't think The Wizard of Oz is awful. I just think it's old. Uh, um, All-time classic in its own right.
Yeah, an all-time
I
classic of
would
being
believe.
bad.
Uh, I think its cast is fun. Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, and then Ariana Grande. I mean, spectacular. Just there
Oh
in
yeah.
and of themselves. So you no, I don't know. I'm not interested in this one at all. Because I also am not a huge fan of it. But anyway, this is a no for me. But if the women in my household were wanting to watch it, I would definitely go with them to be part of the journey. But probably probably a no, honestly.
Yeah, this
And
is just not what I'm excited for. I just
yeah,
don't see it. Don't
understand.
see it
Yeah.
being that big. I do think it'll pull pretty good numbers. I think it
Oh
does have
yeah,
the
I think
name,
it'll.
um, but I
Apparently,
think that's about the extent.
The Broadway musical kills it. Um,
And I
Everyone
feel like
says
that's
it's
where it should have
amazing.
stayed.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I would have
But
never had to have seen the advertisements.
I think
But
we just leave
anyway,
it there.
yeah. Um, anyway, next one, last movie of the month, a huge one, getting no competition for the weekend is Moana 2, coming out the last weekend of November. Now, have you seen Moana 1?
I have. I have.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is actually what I'm excited for. I actually love the first Moana. I love the songs in it. I think I find myself singing those songs from like a Disney movie more than any of the other ones in recent years. Like I love the songs, they're so catchy. This is one of those movies that I also think Dwayne Johnson really shines in. I mean, his character Maui is just so good. He's like the highlight of the movie for me. So I'm hoping this movie kind of matches the first one. I don't expect it to because some of the things I think we've even talked about on this podcast before is like I think this was originally supposed to be like a Disney Plus show, and then they ended up changing it to a movie and all that stuff. So some stuff like that always has me worried when you had an idea originally and then you kind of shape shifted it into something else. But if there was a movie that I think could do that and do it well, I do think it's this one. So this is a win for me. I don't see myself going to see it necessarily. I think this is definitely one I would probably just wait till it comes to Disney Plus. But I'm excited to see the numbers that it pulls because I think this one, out of all the movies on the list, this one's going to be the big blockbuster of the month.
Oh, yeah, I think this is going to kill it at the box office. Um, I think we do have at least two, three movies that are going to kill it at the box office. I think Gladiator 2 is going to do amazing.
Yeah.
I think Wicked is going to do good. And then I think this is going to be the overall winner of the month with
Yeah.
Moana 2 potentially breaking that $1 billion club, depending on how it does. Um, I can definitely see it pulling Inside Out 2 numbers.
Hmm.
But uh, that being said, I'm very excited about this. I probably will go see it as long as it's not too frightening. That's the only thing I'm concerned about taking Charlie to it. Is if it is a little bit too frightening action apparel, because it does seem a little bit more intense. And the first
Yeah.
one's pretty intense, but taking someone to the big screen does kind of make all of those amplified a little bit. So just something that I'm going to be aware of before I take my daughter to go see it is, is it too much for her? But yeah, excited nonetheless. Pretty cool. Moana 2 coming out the day after her fourth birthday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that'll be super fun. I also agree. I think those are probably the big three winners of the month. I would go ahead and say I do think this Moana 2 breaks the $1 billion mark, and I think it does it fairly easily. I think with how well Inside Out 2 did, I said this time and time again, when movies are good, it helps everybody else in the industry. I think that's going to definitely propel this movie forward right out the gate. People are going to have that in the back of their mind, how much they loved Inside Out 2. They already know they love Moana, so I think this is going to have people, going in droves to the movie theater. I would say Gladiator probably next after that. I expect Gladiator to do about 700-800 million. I think it'll have a very strong showing. I don't expect it to break the $1 billion mark. And then Wicked, I'd probably say probably gets around 450 to 500 if I had to guess.
Okay. I don't know. So with the first Moana, it only grossed, around 600.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to outperform the first one by that drastic of a margin. I know the fan base does grow with these animated films because they're on
Hmm.
rewatch, and it is coming out directly around Thanksgiving, which the first one did too. But I don't know. We'll see on that one. I think you could be right. I'm not gonna say it does it easily though. Um, I will say it has potential, but may not. I think Gladiator is going to underperform what its estimation is. What I think they were estimating this to be like $1 billion movie, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to do that. I think it will perform well, but I don't think it's going to break $2 million. I mean $1 billion. I don't think it's going to get 700. I think it's going to be more around that 500,
Okay.
500 million. So which is still, good. I don't know what its budget was. I
I'm
don't
sure it
even
was a
know if they've
lot.
released those. It was a lot, the
Yeah.
casting alone.
Yeah.
Sets look amazing, so we'll see. But yeah, and then I have no clue with Wicked. I don't even know how, like, what the target audience is. I just know I'm not it. So,
I think it's Ariana Grande fans and
well, maybe I am it then.
right.
I'm just kidding. So, um,
Zay's big Ariana Grande fan, guys.
hey, I don't mind. Uh, But anyway, that's all the movies we have for November. We do have two shows coming out. The first show coming out is Cobra Kai. How are you with the Daniel Russo, Johnny, head to
Yeah, so
head rivalry?
I tried to get into this show when it originally came out, and I actually kind of like liked it because I love the original is it trilogy? I think there's three of those
Yeah,
Karate
there
Kid
was
movies.
three, and then the Jackie Chan, Will
Yeah.
Smith's son, Jaden.
Yeah, so I didn't like that one that much, but I did like the original three a lot. Like I thought they were fun movies. Obviously, they did get worse as it went on, because I still think the first one was the best one. But I did try to get into the show when it first came out, and I actually did kind of like it, which I think a lot of people did. But my wife actually hated it; like she could not watch it. And usually, I'll still try to watch stuff if I really enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it enough to like that was what I was going to spend my evening watching, rather than like watching something I actually wanted to. So I didn't make it very far even into the first season, and I think a lot of
Okay.
people have kind of fallen off of this show just from things I've heard. I've heard it's pretty cheesy and very corny. So maybe that's right up my alley. But no, I think it's fun because I think this is the final season, correct?
I do believe it's the final season. I am one of those who did not make it. I watched the first season. I actually truly enjoyed the first season. I thought the
Yeah,
second season was also good. And then as like the third and I think fourth season progressed, it just got ridiculously corny.
yeah,
And the acting, specifically in Daniel LaRusso's daughter, is so bad that she completely ruins the entire show almost on her own accord. Like Mary Mauser, who plays Samantha LaRusso, is just awful. And it is not the writing, it is her performance. She is not athletic enough to play someone doing karate, and she is not a good enough actor to deliver her lines. Like, it's really bad. And there are some other rough performances. It's not just her. But if it was only her, I still think I would be like, wow, this is just the worst acting.
yeah. That's kind of the sentiment I heard from a lot of people, and then obviously when I hear that, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to commit some time to even catching up at this point. But it is kind of sad because I did think that it had such potential when it first got announced, and everyone loved the first couple seasons. You said you really liked them, so it just kind of is annoying when you are enjoying something, and I feel like it's. I know you said it's not like the directing, it's not the writing and all that stuff, and it is the
Oh,
acting, but I just feel like there's so many times where I'm like, if the directors can tell, because they got to know the acting's bad, like do something, like try to fix it. I'm even if it's bad enough, I'm fine with just replacing the actor. Sure, some people get a little bit irritated when they see stuff like that happen in the middle of a show or series or something. but if it makes the show better, sometimes it's worth it. So I've kind of heard that same sentiment as well. So that's super frustrating that like one character can ruin a whole show.
Yeah, and I do want to clarify when I said it's not the acting, it's not directing. I did mean just for her.
Yes, yes, yes.
Definitely some rough writing, definitely some rough direction in the other parts of the show, um, and it definitely fell off. I think they just stopped paying attention to details, and the story continued farther than they were expecting it to, and because of that, the story they're telling isn't really worth telling in my opinion after the fact, after the reconciliation between Johnny and Daniel. I feel like it really should have stopped then.
Mhm.
um but anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Just from like the outside looking in, this is a show that probably should have lasted like 3 seasons. And
Yeah,
was this season 6 now?
season 6 part 2.
Yeah, this it's just too much. Like 3 seasons would have probably been like a really, really great, strong show, and people probably would really like love it, and like it probably hold like a special place in a lot of people's hearts that grew up with the Karate Kid and all that stuff. But sometimes success can be bad, and people just start going a little too far with stuff. I think we see that a lot in today's day and age, especially with like we were just talking about Gladiator not needing a sequel, and we're getting Gladiator 2. It's just because it's able to chase money, and I feel like when you have that name like the Karate Kid, and obviously they changed it to Cobra Kai and all that, but people still know what it is. And sometimes just chasing money just ends up ruining things, and it sucks.
Yeah, but I know there are a lot of people that still love it. Don't mean to hate on it too hard, because it was fun for a little bit. But anyway, the other show coming out this month that I am very excited about is Dune Prophecy. Um, but I'm also scared. I'm also scared it's not going to live up to the series or to the established universe that we're used to now, with two absolutely all-time classic cinema flicks. How are you in terms of Dune Prophecy?
So I'm super excited for this one. I also do think though it needs to be you need to be cautious going into this one. And I also think it is going to extremely underperform. I don't know why I have that feeling. I feel like with the name Dune, people would be super excited about it. But I just feel like it hasn't been advertised enough. I feel like there's a lot of people like I've mentioned it to some friends and stuff, and they had no idea there was even a Dune show coming out. So I feel like some of those things I'm just kind of confused about because I feel like when you have that name and the success you just had with the Dune 2, this should be something that we're seeing like during every commercial break or when you're watching sports. It should just be everywhere, and I feel like it really hasn't been. So I'm worried that it's going to underperform and potentially put unneeded pressure on Dune 3.
Yeah, I kind of get that, but also with as good as Dune 2 was, and it still did not perform to the level it deserved, even at the box office. So I don't know how much they're banking on this being a powerhouse, because when you put out the quality of film that Dune 2 was and it didn't break $1 billion, like it deserved to. But people didn't go to see it. I think it only got like 600 million for Dune 2, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that may be one of the reasons they're not throwing advertising cash at this, is because they didn't expect it to bring in crazy numbers anyway. But they knew the fan base is there that did love the Dune films. They're kind of becoming like cult, like a
Hmm.
cult following on them.
For
So
sure.
I think that maybe just they're just tapping into the market that they know they have, and we'll let it lie there and let it's that way they don't like, if it doesn't perform well, I don't think they hurt the name. So I think that may be a little bit intentional why they're not over like selling this product.
Well, I hope that's the case. Like, I hope it's just not like just something that they think it's just going to get the views just because it's going to get the views and because it's Dune. Like, I really hope that it's just genuinely that's the process they're going with it. But I am concerned, like, if it does do really bad and people are just like, if it's not like a fantastic show, it worries me for the next movie because I feel like it's going to put so much pressure on it to be really good. And then when you start worrying about stuff like that, things get missed, things get overlooked, lines don't get delivered the way they should be. So that's my concern with this movie is like, I just wish it wasn't coming out right now. This is something that I wish was coming out after all the movies were wrapped up.
Yeah, and I get that, but also Dennis Villeneuve is not attached to this, so and he doesn't care, right? Like he's the one who's doing the scripts. It's his trilogy. Um, so I don't think. he is going to take that pressure because he is very his own man when he's making movies, and if he doesn't want to make something or he feels pressure, he'll step away. So I don't have too much worry about Dune Messiah um, being
I don't know,
affected by
just
Dune Prophecy.
but yeah, but even the succinct you just said, like he's not a part of it. Like those are the things I do not like to hear because this is in the universe, right? Like even though it takes place thousands of years before and all that, la di da di da, it is still going to be important, like as a piece for the Dune storyline at some point. Like it makes a difference. I mean, we just had the problem with Acolyte. Like it was supposed to take place so many years before any of the other movies, and we start to see all these problems that it brought up and people that hated on it. So those are the concerns that I have is like he isn't attached. Like he probably hasn't even read the scripts for it and stuff like that. So those are where I'm the most reserved for this show. Like I'm super pumped for it because I love the Dune universe. I just hope they did it right.
Oh no, I completely agree. I still have all those worries for the show. Those worries just don't transfer to Dune Messiah for me, which
Okay.
is the third
Okay.
film.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
no, for me they do a little bit just because I just love the Dune movies so much. Like it's one of my favorite worlds we've gotten in a really long time. So like I just want everything to be good. I don't want there to be something that like really brings it down for me. So that's why I'm most worried about it.
oh yeah, and totally understand that. But so that is our November rundown for what's coming out. We also did get some very exciting announcement I didn't see coming, but we got the Marvel Slate announcement for their TV shows, what they're releasing the end of this year and into next year. So I just kind of want to run through this real quick. And because it's a big list. We have not got a release slate for Marvel in an official capacity for quite some time now. So it is nice to kind of see this. But in December 22nd, we have What If Season 3 dropping. Uh, then in January the 25th, we have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man. On March 4th, Daredevil Born Again is officially dropping, and we saw some more footage of that. Ironheart series is dropping on June 24th with Riri Williams. Then the animated Eyes of Wakanda is dropping on August 6th. And then bringing in the spooky season, we have Marvel's Zombies. And then finishing out the slate, we have Wonder Man in December 25th. So, Jacob, were you taken off guard by this list? Are you excited about it? And is it too much?
So I wasn't taken off guard by the list because if you look at the list, it's a lot of animated stuff. I mean, what are those four projects on here that
Yep,
we
four
know are
animated.
so four animated? And I feel like when you have animated stuff, it's really not as big of an announcement, even though like I love animated stuff, but that's not gonna like grab the attention of everybody like something like Daredevil is doing, right? Only the people that watch the animated stuff are really only the hardcore fans. So I feel like them putting those things on the slate really isn't a big deal to them because like if those get delayed, they're really not upsetting a ton of people. Whereas something like if Daredevil gets delayed or something like that, that upsets a larger fan group of people. So I'm not super surprised that we got this list. Do I think it's too much? I don't, simply for what I just said. There's a lot of animated projects on here, and people generally don't get as upset when animated stuff gets delayed, unless you're like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and stuff like that, like the really big titles. But like shows like this, I feel like people are a little bit more forgiving about like when those animated stuff gets delayed. So that's why I don't think it's too big of a list, and that's why I'm not super shocked that we did get it.
Okay. I think it may be a little too big, simply for the fact that I don't really love the idea of Eyes of Wakanda. I'm not looking forward to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Marvel Zombies is something I could definitely go without. We're already getting What If. I don't need another What If series standalone. Um, so for those three shows, I think it is a little too much. Wonder Man, it was cool to kind of get the sneak peek of that. Just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
for
bit
sure.
of information for that one. Not much, but a little bit. And I can't really make a judgment call on that. We did see the Ironheart trailer earlier from Comic Con, and then obviously Daredevil is super awesome. Very excited for that. So I think this is a decent slate. I don't think it's great, but I'm a What If fan, so
Junkie.
I am very excited that What If is coming this year. I did not expect it to be this early.
Yeah, no, that was the big shocker to me was seeing that we are getting it December 22nd because I feel like that's pretty like soon to just be like announcing something like this. So I think that's super, super cool. I know you're super excited for that. Me, I could never really get behind What If, so I probably won't watch it, but maybe I will for,
Uh,
one reason or another.
yeah, and that's okay. I understand there are different strokes for different folks, so I do understand that not that doesn't hit the same for everybody, but I do just really enjoy those. Um, to kind of take us out of just a moment that you can just pull one episode and enjoy it. That's always fun for me.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that's a lot of like where the joy in those type of shows are is like you can just kind of sit down and watch them whenever you want. So that's the cool thing about them. It's just for me, I don't know why. Like usually I love stuff like that. I just can't get into them.
yeah, I get it. I do understand that not everyone loves them, so uh, that is all good. But yeah, I'm excited for this. What do you think about Wonder Man? Do you have any excitement for that?
I think it's cool that we're just getting like another live action character potentially there. Like I think that's the excitement for me. I don't know a whole lot about that character. I think that was also like a big surprise just to even hear that it's kind of a thing that's happening so soon. Like next year's really not that far away. And we have a lot of other stuff that we've kind of had confirmed recently that we know is even farther away. We've heard more about Spider-Man 4. We've heard a bunch of different little random things here and there. So that one was kind of surprising me. I feel like it just kind of came out of nowhere, but I think it's cool just to get a new character like that.
Yeah, and pretty much he's like a failing artist or like a actor, I believe. And he takes a pill that gives him superpowers, I believe. I could be mistaken, but I think that is Wonder Man and who they are going to be following.
He must have got that pill out of that like Nick Fury tombstone thing that where he was keeping the Avengers blood.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's probably where that pill came from.
Oh man, can we? Uh, let's leave that one.
Secret
Let's leave
Invasion,
that one
man.
alone. Let's leave
Secret
Secret
Invasion,
Invasion
man.
alone. We're not about that. Oh man. All right, man. Now I'm in a bad mood. You talked about Secret Invasion. Why did you do that?
It had to be, I mean, that's the only way you can get a pill like that. Like, I really hope that he doesn't just like stumble across it in the drugstore or something.
Oh
That would
yeah,
just be
dude.
terrible. But
He
where else
takes
would
the
he get something
COVID.
like
He
that?
takes the COVID vaccine, and
Yeah, he
like
got
it
it from the
reacts with
COVID
his
shot.
blood, specially.
I wish mine did that. Like, why couldn't I have gone and gotten it and had superpowers, right?
And then it's like an advertisement to go get your booster shots. You might get
Oh, dude, if Marvel sells out like that, it's
superpowers.
over. Over. We're moving on. The podcast is moving on from Marvel.
Oh man, what's it? That's what a great moment. But anyway, all right. So that's the Marvel slate. Spending a lot of time on that, you know. But Penguin episode 7. Now, I this is another thing that I don't want to spend a ton of time on because I know next episode will essentially be full Penguin review, as we get our finale for the Penguin next Sunday, which is very, very exciting. Now, this episode had a ton of content in it, which honestly, I don't know if I was fully expecting the level of it. Now, how did you feel about episode 7 of the Penguin?
I mean, it's just another fantastic episode, another fantastic show. Like, it's so exciting that this wasn't the finale. Like, that's what I think has me the most excited because this very, very easily could have been the finale of a show if it was getting like a second season, right? Like, this
Yeah.
had all of that type of potential in it. Like, leaves you with a cliffhanger. It leaves you with so much happening, so much going on. We don't know where some people are at. Like, it's got so much fun stuff packed into it. So that's why I think this was such a good episode is because it wasn't the finale. I love that
Okay.
they're giving us all of that and we still have another episode to go. I think that's what really kind of makes this show so exciting for me and this finale so exciting is because we know something really big is going to happen. And I think they just the pacing is on par. Like it's always perfect. The writing is phenomenal. The acting just continues to be amazing. There's a couple actors I in particular wanted to shout out in this episode when we get into a little bit more of the spoiler stuff here in a second. But yeah, no, this was an awesome episode.
Yeah, and I can just I can echo those thoughts. Definitely, I do think it would have been a bad um finale because I really hate terrible cliffhangers. I don't like them. So I think this would have been a cliffhanger where we were not satisfied with it. But I do think this was a great setup for a finale. The only complaint I have with this is that we are definitely getting into the where is Batman territory with the level of events that took place in this episode. How do you feel about that?
So that's actually what I love about it is because I don't think we're going to see Batman in the finale, but I think they've done a phenomenal job of letting this be something that gets led into the Batman 2. Like we've already heard that Sophia Falcone is going to be a very integral part of Batman 2. I think that's kind of one of the things that has the show so exciting because we really haven't heard anything about the Penguin. So does he make it out of his own show? Is this where he comes to an end? And I think that's what makes it so exciting. Like, we'll go ahead and hop right into the spoiler stuff. Like the explosion that happens in his lab, like his newfound lair, like what it did to the city, like first of all, it looked absolutely stunning, and I think we did get our best shot of the entire show was when Oz comes up out of the sewer, and it's just rubble everywhere, smoke in the air. He's just kind of walking. It gave me very much Batman vibes. Like we got a lot of those type of scenes in the first Batman movie. I love that shot, but that's kind of the stuff that has me excited is because you can tell it is starting to set up and start laying some of the groundwork for where they want to go with the next Batman movie, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and I also love what that moment represented for the Gigantes. Kind of her, um, I guess, detachment from the drugs, and that she doesn't care. She's going to do it differently. It's not going to be what her father's was, and really emphasizing the fact that, hey, I really don't care like about this in particular. I do just want you to experience pain though, because you've hurt
Hmm.
me so bad. So I thought that was a great moment. I do want to know where Vic is and why he
Yeah,
was gone for so long. Um,
yeah.
I don't think a call to the triad should have been taking this long, because I do feel like that's what they're gonna pull, is that they're gonna say, hey, those guys that he cracked a beer with, yeah, Vic was running to each of their headquarters and talking to them face to face, instead of like using a motorbike or potentially using a cellular device, so some way of communicating to them. So I am curious if there's more to that story. But yeah, that
No,
was a
so I mean, he was definitely taking so long because it takes a while to get your Robin suit made. Like he probably had to go get
oh,
fitted for it,
okay.
get tailored. Um, Nightwing suits are a little different. They got to fit a little differently. So different. But no, I think I'm interested to see where he was because that's the thing I'm excited about. Like, where did he go? He's such an integral part of the show, and for him to be in the episode before the finale so little. I think this next episode is going to very heavily show him a lot. Like I think he is going to probably be a big part of the Batman 2 movie in some way or form. I'm still holding on hope with my little Nightwing theory. Like I really do want to see something come of that. Like I would love for if my other theory that Oz doesn't make it through, the Penguin does die in this show. Maybe Vic goes off, he's kind of just reflecting on what he's done and he kind of does want to be a better person again. Like he does find that light at the end of the tunnel again. He does realize he can make his way out. I think that would be a really cool setup for his character and for the series moving forward. So I do expect him to be, shown a lot in this next episode, and I'm super pumped for that.
Yeah. I feel like he's more of a Red Hood character
Yeah,
arc
yeah, even
rather
something
than a
like that might be
Nightwing.
cool. Yeah,
Even though I don't think that they would be willing to change such iconic characters' backstories, especially with how the Red Hood comes apart with the Joker killing Robin, and
yeah.
then Nightwing growing in, Batman or Robin growing into Nightwing. I think those are two crucial storylines that kind of are untouchable in the Batman universe. So I don't think that's what they're going to go, but it would be cool to see him turn into a good character. I would
We all
love
know that's
that.
all you want.
If anyone's listened at all, everyone knows I want Vic to be a good guy. Um, but yeah, interested to see where he goes. Now, one of the I think most interesting parts of this story is to understand that pretty much the Penguin's been mentally ill since
Yeah,
conception.
yeah.
Dude, did you see that coming?
Not at all. I thought that was really a shot out of left field, but I loved it. Like I thought it was really cool, and it again just goes back to the fact that they've just showed so many times where you like kind of do feel a little sorry for him. You kind of do agree with all the work he's doing, like trying to take care of his mom. The way he's taking care of Vic ever since they've got met, like all of those things. But hey, at the end of the day, this dude is just a ruthless, evil killer, and I think that's just such a good reminder. This episode in particular of what he really is. Right? He's a bad person. He's not good. He killed his own two brothers, and the way in which he did it and the satisfaction that he got from it is crazy. So I did not see that coming. I did not expect for us to get a flashback episode, kind of like we did, as much as we did this episode, but I think I really did love it a lot.
And it was a little bit of a shorter episode too, I believe.
Hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was crazy good to see that he killed him, and like he kind of like didn't even seem to struggle with it a little bit. Like, didn't go back and try to help as he saw it was raining, or like didn't see them coming home. Obviously, didn't own up to it. So, very interesting. I'm curious if his mom is going to find out, if she makes it out of this, if he trades his life for hers. He did not respond the way that we maybe had thought, with maybe doing the power play and just letting her die.
Hmm.
He clearly is not ready for that to happen. So this is going to be a very emotional finale on several fronts, I believe, with some pretty massive payoffs. I would assume.
Yeah, and I think honestly though, that's one of the characters I do want to talk about that was phenomenal in this episode was his mom. Like I've kind of talked about it and we've talked about a little bit how that's kind of been like a pain spot for us throughout the entire show is we kind of feel like she takes away from some of the scenes and we just kind of feel like they drag on a little bit too much. But man, her conversation with Sophia was awesome. Like I loved it. I thought it was so good. The emotion that was packed into that conversation was just so cool to see. And I think she did a really good job acting in that role and really just putting on a face of full trust in her son, which I loved. I thought it was so good.
Yeah, I can only echo that. I even looked at Chelsea when she switched between current thoughts and then the dementia kicking in. I was like, wow, like that was a really good switch to make like seamlessly and totally believable for someone
Yep.
who's had to deal with people who have dementia in their family. I mean, it is very accurate to those trigger moments where they can be with you one moment and then completely gone the next. Um, and that's exactly what happened. I thought that was a really good moment in that, and then also the kind of restraint that Sophia had to not react after being
Hmm.
slapped. Um, almost, it was almost compassion, but at the end of the day, I think it was more of this is another weakness we can pull on Oz. Um, and so I loved kind of trying to decipher what Sophia was thinking in that moment. Did you have any insight to that?
No, I thought it was interesting too, though, and I almost kind of looked at it as more of like I think we did see Sophia starting to crack a little bit this episode, and I think they did a really good job of kind of bringing it back around. Like, no, she's still who we all thought she was, but I kind of that's how I viewed it. It was kind of more of like a starting point to crack, and then we see her go and talk to her niece Gia, and we see her have that scene out in the hallway after she talked to her when she realized she literally is her dad. And she breaks down a little bit and starts crying, but then she puts her face back on. She gets back to the character that we've all come to love, just this hateful, evil character. So I kind of looked at it a little bit more of like that point of view. Like she was starting to really realize what she had become, but now that she's come to terms with it and has acknowledged it, she's figured out what she wants to be. So I think that's a really great way that they kind of explored it there for a second, kind of showed us those signs, but then immediately took them right back away.
Yeah, definitely. And you are right with that scene with Gia. That was really good in the insane asylum. And I honestly kind of thought she was going to take her out. And was a little disappointed that she didn't. Did you think that she was going to save her, or
No,
did you
I
think
kind
she
of
was going to leave her?
I think I thought she was just gonna leave her. I did not see her killing her because I think that's even a little too dark for her at that moment in time. Because I think that's really when she was at her lowest. Now, maybe at this point in time, she might be all game for going and doing that. But I think at that moment in time, that's kind of what I expected it. I think I expected her just to really scare her. And I think that's exactly what she did.
Yeah. I I don't know. I think she went to manipulate her and then got manipulated herself a little bit into seeing who she had become. And now there's no chance that she would kill her because she is like, hey, like I will not become my father. To do whatever it takes to have power. And I'm only gonna hurt those who really kind of deserve it. And kind of her realizing, like almost justifying herself to the daughter there in that moment was like she almost confessed in that moment, but also just her total defense is that like, yeah, like everyone that I killed deserved it.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think it's just like I think that same thing. Like she does feel like she has done the right thing at this point. Like she feels like she's moved on. But yeah, no, I thought just a lot of those scenes is what really hit for me in this episode. Like I feel like it had a lot of those little scenes that added up to just something big.
Now, how did you feel about Salvatore dying of a heart attack?
Yeah, so that was probably my like most frustrating part of the entire show. Like I was really enjoying the fight that we were getting. And I thought it was really a fun way to kind of see them go back and forth. And I just don't think it made much sense for that moment. Like I would have rather have seen Oz figure out a way to like strangle him, or he does get the gun and shoots him, he stabs him. I think there's a lot of better ways they could have done with that. I was shocked when that happened. That's probably been like the thing that has frustrated me, like I just said, out of the whole show, my least favorite thing that's happened. But I don't think it's like such a big deal that it's like going to knock down a point for me or even a half a point. Like it's just one of those things. I'm like, I wonder why they went in that direction with that death.
Oh, dude, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Um, I thought it was awesome because we're just breaking down Oz even more, right? He's such a terrible person, and he couldn't even be satisfied with the win. He is so in and of himself a narcissist. He wanted to be the one to take that life. He couldn't be satisfied with the victory if it didn't come at his own hands.
Yeah.
And so, like, even then, like, he's literally dead. He's not talking to anyone, and he's screaming, "I beat you," and it's like, um, well, I mean, kinda, but not totally. So I love that they stripped that victory away from him, and he's gonna have to deal with that. The fact that it wasn't in and of your own power. Like, we don't know if you would have won that fight, dude. Um, I mean, it was leaning his way, but definitely, I think that was brilliant to kind of let Oz deal with the mentality of maybe he wouldn't have won that, or maybe he didn't get the best of him. That his opportunity for glory got stripped, and I really like the writing there to kind of let us see him mentally struggle with that and take that victory away from him, pretty much while he's at his lowest. His entire operation completely blown up. Now he didn't get the victory that he thought he was going to get. We don't know where Vic's at. His mom is kidnapped. So I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
I do like that spin on it, but I just don't think Oz took it that way. I think he was still like, I'm on top of the world. Like, we see him unload a whole clip of pistol ammo into him. I think he's just too arrogant to ever accept the fact that maybe he wasn't the one that did it. But if that is the case, if that's like the way the writing was going, I think that is a brilliant move.
Well, I think he kind of shows that he did unload the clip. Like, he is trying to convince himself that he won in that moment. Like, because he's upset that he's dying of a heart attack, and they like show that. And then like you see him kind of fighting through himself, like kind of trying to convince himself that he's the one that won. Because he's not talking to anyone but himself. The dude's
Yeah.
dead. Right? So like
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's been a thing that I kind of would have rather seen them like go back and forth, but it's not something that's upset me enough to where I'm like, oh, that's a bad part of the show. It's just something I kind of wish they would have gone a different direction in.
Yeah. But I'm very excited to see how they're gonna wrap this up, and a full Penguin episode coming full at you next week. With maybe some surprises. We'll see. But yeah, do you want to go ahead and jump into Comic Corner? I know it's been delayed a week. You've had full time to read it, correct? Or did you have something
Yes.
else to say about the Penguin?
No, I'm good with the Penguin, and I'm excited to talk about this comic a little bit.
All right. So, Comic Corner, Jacob, War of the Realms. This was one of my picks. It's one that I had seen a while back, some panels of, and really kind of got me excited for it. So I've been picking them up over the last 4 months. I bought a bunch of the tie-ins, but this review for Comic Corner is strictly going to be over just the main 6 series run of War of the Realms. And so, Jacob, what did you think?
Yeah, so I gotta say, like, I think this comic overall did a lot of really cool things. I think the art looked fantastic. I like some of the storytelling. But for me personally, I think where this comic suffers the most is I feel like it does thrive substantially more when you do get to read all those tie-ins. I think if we would have got to read, whatever came before this, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more because I think this comic really had a lot of big payoff for people that had kept up with it and were reading all of those tie-ins. And for us, where we did stick, I know you did read a couple of the tie-ins, but for me personally, I did stick to just this, right? So I think it
Yeah.
suffered a lot and struggled in a lot of ways that I feel like it was almost just too much for someone that didn't have the full backstory to the world that they were like reading.
Yeah, no, I can kind of echo those sentiments. It does not seem like a solid pickup for just a I'm gonna read this run,
Yeah.
in the main story run. Now, I will say that the tie-ins that I've read have been standalone in and of themselves. And I would say the standalones that I've read, specifically the Punisher, is better than the run, because it kind of takes some of the fun of War of the Realms, um, and kind of puts it front and center. I was a little disappointed with how much realm esque content was in it. I felt like there definitely should have been more plays with more characters
Mhm.
getting magical items and getting power ups, and maybe using external realms more so than what we got. I definitely, I mean, we're going to talk about our favorite art panel, our favorite moment, our favorite exposition here in just a second. But I do think there was moments that were absolutely spectacular because they used the setting that was given more so than just kind of as cannon fodder with visually. Because a lot of it was just visually cool, but they didn't really storytell anything with it or didn't
Mhm.
really use it to their advantage, I feel like. So I was a little disappointed in that aspect. How do you feel with it? They use the aspect of the realm war with the storytelling?
Yeah, that's kind of like it just goes back to how I feel like if maybe I had read what was coming up to it and I had this big build up, I think I would have really enjoyed the Realm War. Like I think I would have been excited to see all of these realms kind of like crashing down and you seeing all these heroes that we know going to each one of them to try to protect them. All that stuff I think could have been really really cool. I just feel like the lack of backstory for me, like you said, I don't think this is something that you should just go and pick up and just read just it. Like I don't think that's what this is. So I think having all those other things, if I'd have read like the entirety of everything, if I read all the tie-ins, if I read the backstories and whatever else came after this, because funny little thing at the very end of this comic, it doesn't say the end, it says the beginning, right? So I think this one has like so much potential, and especially for the writer, like Jason Aaron, I love his writing. He's actually the one that's doing the new Ninja Turtle series right now that I've been reading. So I think he's a phenomenal writer and all those things. I just feel like I didn't necessarily give this like the really I guess I don't even want to say like the respect it deserves by just reading this run, but I just don't feel like I maybe necessarily gave it the chance it deserves by just reading it and really basing it off of just this, which it is fair to base it off of because it is a run. Like it is 6 issues, the War of the Realms, like so you can do it. I just feel like this is one that benefits way more if you had read everything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, I do think it's fair to rank it, and I think this may be part of where Marvel struggles more is with they do try to tie everything in to some of
Hmm.
their mainstream runs, and maybe that's just maybe our problem for picking this one as a mainstream run to
Yeah.
do for Comic Corner. But I echo the sentiment. It just definitely did not do justice. Now, I will say I've read the Thor runs, and this is a Thor story, which I
Oh
I
yeah.
really do love Thor. And I think maybe this would have benefited if it wasn't just a Thor story, like if some of the other characters had more to do, but they really didn't. Did you feel like the other characters were lacking?
Oh, 100%. And like I do think that's one of the strong suits of something like this because of like where is such a like so much going on. Like you talked about how many realms we're jumping between, and like literally half a page could be in one realm and the other half is in another. Like having a central part of the story that does get intertwined throughout the whole thing. I do think that was a strong point when you're looking at this as an individual single issue run, right? Like when you're looking at this as just its own story, that's kind of the glue. But I do feel like with it being what it was, it would have been nice to see a lot of other characters have their moments. Like, there's really not many characters outside of a few that have like a moment that they have their real big stand. It really is Thor through and through. Which again, Thor's awesome. Like that's fine. So I do kind of give like it. praise for that, but I also don't like it. Like, I feel like it was good glue for the story, but I do feel like when you're talking about something like the War of the Realms, it can't just be one person.
Yeah, and I've read the Thor God of Thunder storyline, which is the one that I've discussed on here a little bit before with the Gore the God Butcher. And so this storyline pulls heavily from that, especially with bringing in the three Thors.
Hmm.
That is a very Thor God of Thunder storyline, and I benefited greatly from having read those previously. So I enjoyed getting to see those three Thors interact again because that's something we've seen before, which I know you haven't actually got to have. So how did you feel about the time travel and grabbing the three Thors to kind of solve the issue?
So this would have been another moment where I feel like if I had read more and had more backstory and had read all the tie-ins, I would have loved it. But it was actually my least favorite thing about the entire run. Like, it just came out of nowhere for someone that hasn't read those other things, and I really didn't like it. Like, I just don't like necessarily having a bunch of the same characters on the screen like that or in a panel like that. Other than Spider-Man. Like, for me personally, Spider-Man's been really the only one that has ever pulled that off for me, and I've enjoyed it. And maybe it's just because of how much I like Spider-Man and all that stuff. I mean, he is my favorite Marvel superhero, right? But that was actually a big part for me that I was like, I don't like that they went that route.
Yeah, and I get it. I totally get it because it definitely could have came across as almost lazy.
Yep.
Um, Thor needs to go fight. Oh man, I just forgot his name.
Malekith.
Malekith. And only he's allowed to, get through this penetration
Yeah.
force field. So he brings in his counterparts from different timelines. Um, Thor, Odinson,
Hmm.
um, or what is it? God Thor, essentially. Um, is it Odin Thor? All
I don't
Father.
remember off the top of my head.
Thor
All Father.
Thor
All
All
Father. Yeah,
Father.
yeah.
So that's his future, and then Barbarian Thor from back in the day before he was worthy of any hammer. And that's a great storyline in Thor God of Thunder. But I do think it was a little lacking if I wouldn't have read the other ones. I
Hmm.
liked it because I had the backstory. But yes. So I agree with that. But yeah, I think I kind of want to go ahead and get into my favorite moment because I do think there were some high points. Um, do you have a favorite moment that you would like to share first from this run?
No, you go ahead and take it. You go ahead. I'm excited to hear what your favorite moment was.
So my favorite moment was definitely Daredevil becoming the Guardian of the Bifrost. I just felt like that was the perfect kind of what I wanted from this War of the Realms. I wanted to see some of our favorite heroes get to upgrade their powers and use the realms to kind of better themselves, and getting to see him and Heimdall's connection, the talking, and then two blind men are better than one, and kind of him being able to use his superpower to open up and control the Bifrost when he grabbed the key to the sword and become that guardian. I really love that. And then aspects within that, him being able to kind of see everyone and kind of guide everyone because of his super enhanced senses, because he is blind and just he's kind of used to it, and kind of being able to hone those. So I love Daredevil becoming the Guardian of the Bifrost. That was clearly my favorite moment from this. There were other good moments, and I think it was almost one of the issues I had with this was that they almost went for punchy moments instead of good continuous storytelling. I think
Hmm.
of even like Iron Allfather Odin, where he gets the Iron Man suit created by him and Shuri. I feel like that's like an aha moment, but it doesn't have the payoff. Um, he doesn't really do anything super cool with it. It doesn't end in a victorious moment. It's a cool panel, but I don't feel like it does anything. But I do feel like the Daredevil actually had like weight behind it. It continued the entire run, and I felt like it was a great moment. So that was my pick for favorite moment.
Yeah, and that was actually my favorite moment as well. And it's funny because I'm not a big Daredevil fan. Like, I've never been like super drawn to the character. Obviously, I think the show is awesome and all that stuff. But like when I'm talking about like my favorite Marvel characters, it's never one that usually come up for me. but I did think they did a phenomenal job. And again, it is one of those moments where I think they really that kind of made sense. Like they went for storytelling in that moment. And I love what you said about like having those big gut punching, panels and scenes. That is kind of what I feel like this really thrived in. It just didn't have a great connecting like route. I also felt the same way about Thor's dad, Odin, getting the Iron Man suit. I thought that was a really big waste of what it could have been, because he essentially just goes there, helps his wife for a few seconds, and then they get captured, right? Like it felt wasted. And so that's why I liked about the Daredevil moment is it wasn't wasted. It felt like just a really cool, fun scene that I really enjoyed. But not to pick the exact same ones. I think my other favorite one, just to have something else to talk about, was I love the Valkyries defending New York. Like I thought that was such a really, really cool moment. New York's obviously a really great setting. And we kind of see Jane dealing with that throughout like the entirety of the comic, like feeling guilty that they gave their life for her and protected her, and she feels like she needs to do more because of it. I really like that scene as well.
Yeah, no, that was a good scene. I do hate that they all died. Like
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
Well, for me though, that is kind of one thing I did like though, is like not enough people died in this. Like it's just the War of the Realms. Like people should be suffering here. And so like the fact that they did do that with them, I was like, okay, maybe I believe that happened in issue 2.
It was issue
So
2, yeah.
yeah, so I was excited to like, okay, maybe this is going to be a theme moving forward. Like maybe they're really going to get dwindled down, and they just never did. Like it never felt like they were ever down on their back foot or anything. It just always felt like they were kind of figuring out the next step instantly. So like seeing them all die, I was like, oh, this is setting up something I think could be really cool. But it is one of my complaints is no one really dies, and I
Yeah, there
think that
was
was
no
kind of a problem.
consequences.
No, none at all. And we're
Even
talking about
even Loki.
again. We keep bringing it up, the War of the Realms, man. Like people need to be dying and suffering throughout this, and they just weren't. And you were just about to talk on it. Loki doesn't even die, and like that's the stuff that like was big misses for me.
Yeah, man, especially when it's not even foreshadowed at all. Like Loki, we saw him crunch. So like he should not be coming out of him whole. Just man, because he gets in this comic, he gets eaten by his dad, and I think it's the
Mhm.
first issue. Um, and when he gets eaten by his dad, it is pretty clear that he gets crunched to death, not swallowed whole. It's not a gulp; it's a crunch. Which I know is like almost a nitpicky moment, but I feel like it's an important distinction when we are doing a comic book graphic panel. Like the visuals are just as important as the words that are being said because you're telling a story in graphic art form. So then in uh the last I guess comic in the run, he just pops out of his dad's
Yeah,
stomach to kill him. I was like, all right, whatever.
yeah,
I that was a big eye roll moment for me. So
yeah.
that was actually one of the biggest letdowns for me.
Yeah, mine as well. Like I feel like that you touched it. There were no consequences for it. I felt the exact same way. Like I flipped through that page so fast when I saw that happen. I was like literally frustrated with it. I was like, "Well, that's dumb." So like it was actually like if you go back and look at that panel, it is a really stunning panel. Like the artwork was really well done for it. But I was so irritated with the fact that it happened. I didn't even really want to like really look into it. I was just frustrated.
All right. Well, you said stunning artwork, and I do think this had some pretty heavy, busy visuals. What was your favorite art panel throughout the entire comic?
So my favorite one has got to be at the end of issue number 3 when we see Thor going on his rampage, killing all the frost giants, and we see him at the very end of the comic standing there. He doesn't he's missing an arm. His hammer is like whittled down to like nothing. He's bloody. I thought that was such a cool panel, and I think it's one of those things we talked about Thor being the glue, but just the links he was going through to try to get to Meleketh. I thought that was like War of the Realms esque. Like he's literally laying it all out on the line for this moment. So that was one of the aspects that I really liked about it, and I thought that panel was so cool to see.
Yeah, no, actually, that is an amazing panel. And you said at the end of 3, is that the one you said?
I believe it is 3. I actually have them here because I forgot to return them to you. So I can flip back to the end real quick here
Oh,
and check it out. But let me double check to make sure. Yes, it is at the end of issue 3.
yeah, because
Um,
that's when Steve Rogers and them find him, correct?
yes,
Okay,
that's when
yeah,
they
no,
found him.
that is
Yeah.
a great panel. I really like the look of that, and the visuals with Thor. I think is just always so fun because the contrast with the lightning that he gets to
Yeah,
see. I had a similar one that I was debating of picking. Um, when he's spinning both hammers with the frost giant's fingers coming down on him with lightning all around.
yeah, yeah.
I thought that one was really spectacular, and it's the god of thunder will be the doom of you all. Ah, dude, I thought that was a really cool, stunning like visual. But I actually picked the Jane Foster reforging Stormbreaker panel.
Okay.
When she picks
No,
up that hammer as Thor is nailed to the tree of Jotun, oh man,
Tree of Life, kind of. I
the
think is
tree
what
of
they
life
called
kind
it.
of
Yeah.
sprung from the seed inside the sun, and she is like, there must always be a Thor, and sometimes there must be even more than one. And you kind of see her with that struggle and that pain of reforging Stormbreaker, even though I don't really love that she joined the fight with Thor. I love the emotional payoff that that moment has for her throughout the run. You even touched on it, her having to deal with the fact that the Valkyries died for her, and then just how visually stunning that page is with all of the lightning coming off of her and the blend of colors to kind of go from yellow to red within it, striking throughout the entire page. I love that panel. I thought that was really, really cool.
And I think that was one of the strong suits of the run as well, because I loved how like she was just kind of waiting for it to break. Like we even hear Malekith say, "Oh, one more blow like that, and it's going to be done for." And I just kind of
Yeah.
like that whole aspect of it. Is it was really like she was putting it all on the line there, like it was everything she had left. So I thought that was a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah, so that was definitely my favorite panel art. Now, something I think was very lacking in this was the exposition. I don't feel like there was much like good lines or actual like communication back and forth. But did you have a favorite exposition or a favorite line in this run that really
Yeah,
stood out to you?
there was one in particular, and I think the high of this comic run is issues 1 through 3. In my opinion, I feel like after that is when you kind of start to see it fall off. And mine actually comes in that same battle with the Valkyries, at the end of uh, issue number 2, and you kind of hear her talking about like at the very end, they're praying to a god, but there's no god is listening. And I thought that was just such a harrowing moment of what was happening, like the Valkyries had just all died. They were just talking about there was going to be no one to carry their souls to what their just reward was. Like I thought that was the moment that I touched on it. I thought at that moment I thought this was going to be a really dark comic, and we are going to get to start to see like really these heroes that we love on their last legs, and see some of them die, and really kind of feel that gut punch of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. And it just doesn't happen after that moment. And I think that's why that moment in particular is so high on like the exposition list for me, is because I was like, oh, that really is setting to stage for what the War of the Realms would be. And then just to see the way they kind of just throw it out like after that, like, oh, they never really suffer again after that. That was a frustrating part for me, but that's also why I think that moment is so cool, is because of what it like meant. Like that felt War of the Realms esque at that point.
Yeah, no, and that really was a great moment. And I do love that because that is such a daunting moment just to kind of put yourself in the aspect of now. Um, because man, our God, our creator is always there. And to think of him not listening to our prayers, is just
Literally
like
exactly what I was thinking.
world shattering.
Yeah,
Um, Oh man. So yes, I do definitely get that. That is a great exposition moment. I didn't even pick that one. Which I think that's a really good one, but I actually have another one to do with prayers. Which is funny. Um it's when Daredevil is fighting Laffy. And it's talking about his overwhelming senses. He's kind of cold,
yep.
it's kind of cold, and he's hearing everyone, and through the muck and the mire of hearing everyone else's prayers that he's seen, he hears a familiar one, and it's his own voice praying, Catholic Matt coming out praying to the one true God. I love that moment in the fact that even in like this moment he reverts back to the true nature of himself, the true the true religion. I love the fact that he's going back and praying in that moment, and that he didn't even realize at first that it was him praying. It was just so natural to him. It's his
Mhm.
second instinct. I thought that was such a cool little dialogue there, and I don't have it in front of me, or I probably would have just read it, but I really liked what that one was said. So that
Yeah,
was my favorite exposition on that one.
and it's cool too because it goes back to like if your prayers weren't being answered, how shattering that would be. But like it also brings you back to like if you were in a life or death situation right that and you are a believer, like you probably would be doing that without even thinking about it because you would just not know what else to do. And so I do think that's a really cool aspect of it. And he even touches on it at the end, once he loses the power, and he's kind of like trying to figure out how to deal with not having it anymore. He's like, I just need to go pray again.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was like a fun moment
absolutely.
there too. But yeah, no, that's a great exposition as well. Like the comic has its moments.
It
I
has
just
good
feel like
moments.
as an overall, like just by itself, it's not that. But again, I feel like if we would to like on our own time, because we do want to keep it smaller for these comic corners, and we do want to just do like single run stuff. I think if we went back on our own time and we read everything that had to do with the War of the Realms, I think this could have been a phenomenal story. Like, I really do think it had the potential. But just on its own, I think that's kind of where it falls flat.
Yeah, it definitely does fall flat in that aspect, but I agree with you. It could potentially could raise its rating for me. I even don't even know like Civil War. Like how much would Civil War be in and of its own? Because I've never read the Civil War without all the tie-ins. So I don't know how I would stack that up even against something like this.
Hmm.
If I just read the main run, because I think Marvel does really high like rely heavily on the tie-ins to bring in as much revenue as possible for these big crossover events.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
could have been on us for picking a big crossover storyline to read the main storyline of, but I do think comics need to, if it is a run, it needs to be able to be read and it needs to be solid in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do something, anytime you bring back issue number one, like if you label something issue number one, that needs to be a full and complete story without having any tie-ins. And you've touched on it before that you feel like Marvel has struggled with moments like that. I've not read enough Marvel to really experience that, but this is that moment where I was like, I understand what he's saying now because they do try to do too much with too little. They give themselves too little a time and they have too much to say. So you get all these pages cut up and all this random stuff. So I agree with that moment. Like, I feel like if they would have just let this be its own story and give us, like, let half of the first issue be the backstory to get us all up to speed. Comics do that all the time where they give us some backstory to the beginning so we know what's happening and what has happened. This would have benefited greatly from that.
Yeah, if it would have just like a little bit more prologue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, I think it's a I think it's solid. Like a solid 6 for me. How's your ranking coming out on this?
I would be right about there with you. I think as its own, I might even give it like a 5. But
Okay,
the way we're going to be rating Comic Corner, we kind of changed it up a little bit to this and make it a little bit more fun. We've read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So that's right now it's the only thing on our list. This is obviously going to fall way below that. So that's where I'm at with this one. It is way below Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, or Super. I probably have that flipped around,
it's
but
woman of tomorrow.
yeah, so what was super, yeah, Woman of Tomorrow. So this War of the Realms is not that. It's not even close in when you're talking about a standalone story. And again, I feel like it's not fair because I know this is probably something that would be fantastic if I read everything. But as a standalone story, it falls very short of that on our list. So as of right now for me, on our comic corner, it is Supergirl and then it is War of the Realms.
Yeah, it's actually a few spaces in the War of the Realm. So
Yeah.
if you, I know it is only 2 comics at this point, but if you want to keep up and kind of join the conversation, in our Discord we do have a text channel with our Comic Corner rankings, and so we are going to continue to update that as we go along each month and continue to put one in there. And so this is exciting. I definitely agree with you. It is well below Wonder Woman, Woman of Tomorrow. Not even worthy of being put right under it. There's some spaces to make sure we know like there's a gap. So
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's just not that. And It's again, it's not terrible, but if you are going to read A War of the Realms, do yourself a favor and read everything else that ties it in, and I think you will enjoy it a lot more than we were able to.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. We're gonna wrap it up there. We tried to keep this one a little bit shorter than our last comic corner review. Um, a little bit less to talk about, a little less exciting of a comic, but it still was fun. I was still glad that we picked it up. I'm still glad we got to read it. And I am excited to read all the tie-ins to see if this can improve. And I will let you know if I get any of those read in their entirety. Like, hey, like how much does it improve? Did my opinion entirely change? But we'll let you know. But with that, that will do it for Weekly Fix. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will hope to catch you in the next one here at Weekly Fix.